Huh. Excellent. How are we doing? Participants. Fabulous. Right, I think we can kick things off. All right, good evening, everybody. Thank you all for joining May's meetup for the CanaryWharf.net user group online, of course. Thank you all for staying safe during COVID-19. We do appreciate it. This evening, we have a good friend of mine from the Netherlands, Fanie Reynders, discussing how to securely connect the cloud to on-prem without breaking the bank using Azure. And obviously, we have to kick off by thanking, of course, our sponsors, Red Cloud Technology, JetBrains, Endepend, and Redgate. And as always, we have a Redgate SQL prompt license and a JetBrains all product license available to raffle off at the end of the meetup. If you stick around long enough, then we'll make sure that that gets raffled off successfully. So, as I mentioned, yes, some free stuff is coming. And on that note, I will make Fanie the host, and we can kick things off. There we go. All right, take it away, Fanie.
Yes, okay. I just want to quickly see how I can take that. You said I need to kind of put that annotations off or something again?
Yes, yes. So hit share screen, and then under
yeah,
more.
Share screen, there we go.
And then more, and then annotations off.
Share screen.
There we go.
And then more would be, oh yeah.
Yep.
There we go. And then annotations. It should be fine, right?
Yep. Excellent. I should not be able to. Yep, I can't annotate it. That's absolutely fine. Perfect. Off you go, mate.
It is perfectly Benjamin proof, so to speak.
Yes, in my younger days, maybe I would have tried something, but now I have to run one of these things. It's a different story.
Well, thank you very much for having me. It's awesome.
Our pleasure.
I've been actually a bit out of the whole live coding scene for a while. Also then due to COVID as well, and all sorts of other things happening. But yeah, thank you so much. It's great to be here. It's actually a nice excuse to get my hands dirty again to showcase all the Azure goodness there is outside there. I used to do, well, I still do, but I still struggle to find time. Live coding sessions on Twitch. You can just follow me on twitch.tv/Fanie Reynders, or just get me on Twitter, and we can party there. Today, slight change in title because of the length of the slide, but or the name of the talk, basically the same thing: cheap hybrid cloud connectivity. And just a note, no firewalls were opened in the making of this. It's just a little kind of teaser what's about to happen. Before I dive into this, it's a major problem, you know. Well, not a problem per se, but you know, especially in enterprises. There is a lot of need still to connect to on-premise. Now, on-premise can be anything. It could be a different partner cloud. It could be an actual network on-premise, or it could be, you know, a box on this underneath someone's PC. But that need is still there because why? People aren't 100% in the cloud, or most people aren't in the cloud 100%. You'll get. Oh, I'm sharing the wrong screen. Which one? Oh, am I sharing the wrong screen? Oh. Sorry. Let me see. Which one? Oh, I'm sharing this. I'm sharing this other one. So thank you for that. I was like, which one am I sharing? Yeah. Okay. I'm not a Zoom expert, by the way. So let me just try this again. Share my screen, and this should be this one, right? Share this one. Yeah. And I should now. Okay. There we go. That's perfect. Okay, so I don't need to allow again. All right, so now you can see my screen again. So I'm not going to repeat myself again, but this is the name: cheap hybrid cloud connectivity. No firewalls were opened in the making of this. And like I said, there's still a need for on-premise connectivity, and not all of the people, or not all of the companies or enterprises are still 100% in the cloud. There is still a great need for connecting folks on premise. So solving this, there's obviously a need for better tool sets, and Azure has a lot of, like a wide range of ways we can actually connect the cloud to on-premise. Because going from on-premise to cloud is easy, but getting down to the middle in your own network can become quite messy sometimes, but also costly. But they have a wide range of tools and a wide range of ways to make connectivity possible. And I thought, well, I'm going to quickly go through all of them, and I'm going to stick with one. And actually, that's one of my favorites that we used to implement this in a previous employer that I was working for, but also the possibilities of especially our current company that I'm working for could also work the same way. Okay, so a bit about of myself. Before we continue, my name is Fanie Reynders. I'm a solution architect at Edge Technologies, hence the shirt. We are building smart buildings. That means buildings that has a platform, and we collect telemetry and we send it through AI models, and we make buildings better to, in the end of the day, serve the employees and the people living in, working or moving into the buildings, better people. That's what it's all about. It's the people inside the buildings. And if the people are happy, everyone is happy. And kind of that's what it's all about, right? You can reach me on Twitter at Fanie Reynders, or on Twitch, same alias. And do check out their website, edge.tech. So a little bit about, before I dive into the demo, because I was instructed that I can go a little over the whole 45 minutes that I've prepared. Just want to quickly talk about Edge Technologies and what kind of we do. These are the buildings we're building. In the introduction, we were briefly mentioning my background. This is actually how the buildings look inside, or some of them. These are like one of my six favorite buildings that Edge is building. And all of them are basically the most sustainable buildings, I would say. Sustainability means very green and very recyclable material, etc. But also they have, like, the one on the top left hand corner is one of Edge's first smart buildings, the Deloitte building in Amsterdam. It's probably one of the first and unique most IoT examples that one can imagine a smart building has. It has like automatic blinds and all that kind of things that open and close automatically, etc. But it's actually awesome. And also, the last project was, I believe, in London Bridge, there in your valley, Benjamin. It is called Edge London Bridge. Go check it out. I'm not sure if I think it's in Thompson Street somewhere. It's one of our latest projects. So this is like a screenshot of our platform that we have, just to show how cool it can get with the analytics we can collect, and we present this to our users to get more insights on the actual buildings. All right, so now quickly, this schematic image shows a use case of what we do. We have a building with like a building management system that's normally a server running on-prem, but it's just like a box, right? And we have space schedules and weather and all the sorts of sensors around the buildings that we collect into our platform. But it also goes downwards to the actual building itself. But that communication happens via something called an IoT hub that is made for scenarios to actually drive these devices, or these mechanics of the building, like opening, closing blinds and stuff. So, for instance, connectivity downwards can happen through IoT hub, but that's not the topic of the talk today. The topic of the talk today is, if there is a scenario where you have a platform, and the platform in the cloud needs to connect to a database that's on-premise. Think about the BMS I was talking about. Let's say that BMS, that building management system, is running a SQL database on-prem. And the reason why the buildings aren't running a major data center is because, remember, they are green buildings. And running a very heavy load data centers on your building's infrastructure will cause them to be not energy sufficient, and it will push out a lot of CO2 and that kind of thing. So they would like as little as possible tech running, or servers running on premises. Still be secure though, but sometimes it's still needed to have data on premises. So this is kind of an example. We might have an API that's on premise, only local, and a database that is local. Oh, by the way, guys, if you feel to kind of ask questions along. Just maybe this is an informal thing, I'll say. Stick up your hand, and then we can have a cool conversation about these things. Right. So now Azure Hybrid Connectivity. Let's look at the options that's available currently in Azure. For those of you that don't know what Azure is an awesome cloud platform for building cloud applications, but I think you guys got that by now. Okay, so first of all, we have the site-to-site VPN. Everyone, I think, here knows what a VPN is, virtual private networks. In Azure, it's possible to set one up. It's fairly simple. But the problem with that is it mostly requires like a SOTI box or something like a VPN device appliance on premise that you physically need to install and manage, and it's more hardware and yada, yada, yada. And using that third-party appliances, Azure cannot then really guarantee the 4 nines of SLA, the 99.9% SLA 99. So that's a bit of a problem if there's a hiccup. And also, if you take a look at the bandwidth, you're not streaming data, that's fine, but you only have maximum 1.25 gigabits of bandwidth. And there are a lot of firewall constraints to kind of think about. But like I said, this is the simplest and most legacy used one. Most companies use this method to connect from the cloud down to on-premises, but just beware, there are a few challenges to kind of overcome. And this is typically how you would implement this in Azure. You can do it in 2 ways. In this case, there's something called Azure Stack. Now, Azure Stack is a rollout of Azure, a completely kind of on-premise version of Azure in a box that you just can turn on. You don't manage the hardware. You get it from a third party. You just get the keys of that car. Turn it on, and it just works. It's the same portal experience that you will see on portal@azure.com. But there are little less services available than in the public Azure cloud. But the benefit here is you can connect via Azure Stack. You can kind of connect to your on-premise network and still utilize Azure per se, but that's like an offline Azure. So this is the example of the VPN implementation. You will have a couple of gateways in place. Then you will have a like something called a virtual network in Azure to hook it all up. And for me, it starts to blur and start to get a bit more complicated, but this is considered as simple. So let's quickly move on to the next option. So this is now, I think, the most expensive one there is, ExpressRoute, but it is the most reliable one per se. So ExpressRoute is Microsoft's little highway. It's a fiber optic highway from the data center of Azure right towards your data center if it's hosted somewhere else. So your data center is typically hosted at a big data center somewhere, but and then your internet service provider connects you directly to Azure's data center with a fiber optic cable. The benefits is huge. You can have 10 gigabits of bandwidth. That's depending on how you set it up. And you, I think there's like 3 circuits. One circuit is the Microsoft services one, the one is for Azure, and the one is for Office that you can use. So each one of them going to different things. All right. What else do we have? We have dynamic scaling, which is quite cool. And we have direct access to national cloud. So for instance, if you have, I believe national cloud is I'm not really sure what national cloud is. I actually forgot there. And you have your 99% SLA that's kind of guaranteed. The challenges, however, it is complex to set up, and there's red tape. There's third parties involved that they first have to link you to kind of these, if you set up your circuit, they first have to activate it, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So it's a bit annoying. But in any case, give me 1 second. So sorry about that. Just my little girl is crying in the background, and my wife is going there quickly. Any case, so where was I? So it was quite complex, and it kind of requires a high bandwidth routers on premise. And like I mentioned, it requires a kind of a hands-on or some action from the ISP side to make this work. But all in all, this is the kind of de facto standard or the way to go if you really are serious about connecting to your on-premise networks. And if it's a kind of long-term strategy, if it's a short-term strategy, I think the benefits don't really outweigh the efforts here. So it's all about what's fit for purpose, right? Now my next slide button doesn't work. And this is typically how you would set it up. On an on-premise network, you would have your web tier, business tier, and your data tier. That's normally kind of segregated. And you also have your jump box there. Then you would have your ExpressRoute gateway that's connected with a ExpressRoute circuit to your on-premise gateway appliance. And the ExpressRoute circuit is now all routable from your ISP. So the diagram looks a bit simpler in this case, but I've got experience. It's a bit of a headache to configure and activate and that kind of things. All right. So another thing which you can also do if you have a lot of moolah, right, and if you really are serious about connecting, is kind of combine these two using ExpressRoute with a VPN failover. So you get the best of both worlds, right? So it's a bit more complex, but you have this when the VPN or when the ExpressRoute does not connect or something happens, it can actually fail over to a VPN connection. So it's highly available. So that's where you can get around it, like a 99%, more than 99% availability in this case. But it's costly at the end of the day. So just bear with me. And typically, this is how you would implement it, the same picture, but kind of a hybrid scenario, how you would implement these kind of things. All right, so now there's another thing called service endpoints. Now, this is or service points. This is not really connecting per se your on-premise, but these are ways of you can actually privatize your connections to between your services. So it improves the security. Martin has entered waiting for. I'm just going to admit Martin because hello Martin. So it's got improved security. It's got optimal routing and simple to configure. And I must say, if you have a typical storage account and you have an app service account, connecting to that storage account is not necessarily, if you have everything in Azure, it's not necessarily connecting within the Azure data center because it's a public routable address. It could potentially go around outside internet, right? So the service endpoints would allow you to kind of do like a direct line to that storage account to connect directly to that storage account and kind of have a lower latency connection and actually a more secure connection. Yeah, that's about it. So like I said, this is not really an inbound to on-prem scenario. So if you have kind of a partner cloud or a partner sort of segregated resource group, then you can connect privately between those networks. And this is the typical example. So if you have your virtual network and your Azure storage, you can set up a service endpoint. This is obviously in the same Azure subscription only. And in combination with the Azure Express routes, you can also have secure access to that same storage account, as well as your on-prem, or as well as your cloud workloads can share the same storage account in a secure and a nice way. All right, so now the fairly new. It's been launched quite a while ago. Well, just recently, been from public preview GA. It's called Azure Private Link. So it's the same as these service points, but think about it as if you have a customer in a different cloud, customer also in Azure, you want to connect your services with him in a private way. You can do that now with Azure Private Link. So it can privately access Azure services from your own service. You can do on-premise peering. You can protect against data exfiltration. There's a global reach, but still the challenges are it's very limited services for now. There are some firewall constraints, and it requires a VPN or ExpressRoute to work. So if you're going to be doing the cheaper ways that I'm going to be diving into soon, Private Link is not for you. But Private Link is kind of something to consider if you are thinking of going 100% in the cloud to maybe um, to maybe mitigate the public connectivity of your public cloud. Maybe connections between your services or your infrastructure should be only private, or if you have a partner connecting, that should only be connecting to that partner. Okay, so all right. And this is typically how it works, almost the same as that other one. You have your virtual network, and through private link, you can connect to customer services through Azure PaaS services and your partner services. So it kind of allows you, it's like a, what's that? Keep on forgetting, it's service points as a service almost, I would say. And an interesting one enough, the next one on the list is called Logic Apps. So Logic Apps, some of you might not know what Logic Apps means, but Logic Apps is a way to kind of, it's like a workflow things that you can set up. Now, Logic Apps, you're probably thinking now, what, Fanie, why are we talking about Logic Apps? We're talking about on-prem connectivity, yeah. Logic Apps comes with adapters or connectors that can connect to our on-premise data gateway. Now that is powerful. If you have a SQL database running on premises, you can install the Azure on-prem data gateway on that box or on a box that has access to the SQL database. And then you can use the on-prem data connector in your cloud to send and receive data to that database. And then use the Logic app as an API or something to initiate requests from. So that's kind of a way of you kind of have this workflow that connects to your on-premise network through the on-premise gateway. There are a limited amount of connectors that's available, but if you know what you want and the ones that's available does the trick, go for it. There is no, how can I say this? There's no silver bullet that will fit everything. I think what's important to understand is a fit for purpose. You have to pick the right tool for the right job. That is very important. But the benefits are, in this case, it's easy to configure. It's cheap. It's basically free. It's Logic Apps. And it works like around with all connectors. There are connectors for SAP and for Azure DevOps and for Twitter and for all sorts of kind of things you can connect out to. There's a audited history, so you can replay kind of cycles, how it went through, and there are no firewall challenges because it's all kind of sorted out by the on-premise gateway. And what's interesting is this on-premise gateway is not a cloud, specific cloud to on-premise direction. It's actually an outbound connection that goes out, which makes it a lot less firewall risky. So this is an idea. So you have all your cloud services on top. So analysis services, Power BI, Power Apps, Power Automate, and Azure Logic Apps. They all can use the Azure, or they all can use the Gateway Cloud Service, which runs, which connects to the Azure Service Bus, and then eventually through the Application Gateway, which connects to the SQL Server, Analysis Server, or any other data source which you might have, or files or SharePoint on premise. Kind of that's the way the kind of data gateway will actually work. So here's some of the on-prem gateways, on-prem connectors there is. I was actually surprised when I saw IBM and MySQL in the list, which is actually brilliant. Look, there's Oracle DB, there's PostgreSQL. So it's not just Microsoft SQL, BizTalk Server File System, Teradata, all sorts of on-prem connectors you can make use of to actually get your data and connect to on-premises. If you're using these workloads on-prem, it's still, there's no excuse to actually use Azure in this case. Now we came to my favorite, and this is what the demo is all about, right? So we have hybrid connections. So hybrid connections is a very interesting thing. It works over Azure Relay, and it's actually a way of having or allowing app services to connect securely to on-premises without kind of opening firewalls. So think about it as a kind of a poor man's ExpressRoute. So it's very, very simple to set up. And it's basically free. Well, basically free is it's a big assumption, but it's not as expensive as ExpressRoute, and it can scale depending on how picky one that you just add more kind of workers to it, and it will do the job. So the benefits are there are no firewall challenges. It depends. So it requires an outbound 443 socket connection. So if you don't have that open, it won't work. So obviously you need that open, but it's an outbound connection. It's not an inbound connection, which is more safe in my opinion. You can access on-prem securely. It's easy to set up, like I said. It does not require, though, and this is interesting, it doesn't require an internet accessible endpoint, only an endpoint that has that port 443 outbound connection. So you can block all internet traffic as long as you have that connection to that specific, through that specific port, you are good to go. You can also provide access in multiple networks from the single app. So the single app I was talking about is kind of the hybrid connection manager that you can kind of, that manager is the entry point into your network. As long as that agent can have access to the, as long as you can have access to that agent, whatever that agent has access to, inherently you will have access from the cloud to that. So you can also think about it as a way of segregating your networks, whereby you have certain agents doing certain parts of the network and only stopping the cloud for accessing certain parts of your networks and others not. So you can do sorts of all these kind of things. There are challenges though. So with what's that saying? With big power comes great responsibility, right? So it only supports app service and event grids only. But I'll come back to that in a sec, which is quite cool. You cannot mount a drive, so I don't know why you would mount a drive in Azure if you can use Azure Storage to do that anyway. There are no UDP connections. You can only use like TCP-based connections. If you're using LDAP or Active Directory, the on-prem Active Directory, there's no support for that, meaning you cannot do, if you have a integrated security SQL, maybe that's a deal breaker for some of you. If you have integrated security on-premise or Active Directory driven scenario, you cannot connect to that SQL box remotely because it uses Active Directory and LDAP. You could however do that with Azure AD. So if your SQL, if you want to authenticate with SQL Server with Azure AD, then most probably it can work. Just checking the notes here. So also very important point, it's Windows only because I don't know why. I think it only works on Windows. I've actually tried this on Linux and did not want to work. So it's Windows only. The hybrid connections, by the way. So, but you could build your own kind of hybrid connections. Like I said, it's built on top of Azure Relay. So if you build your own kind of hybrid connections agent or framework, whatever, that still sends messages to Azure Relay, you can still do this in .NET Core, which means you can do this cross-plat. So I think there's still kind of room for improvement in that regard. Another thing is, it's kind of my sad point, it requires an app service plan. So if you're planning to do a kind of a serverless scenario with app services in a consumption plan, this doesn't work because it needs a physical VM underlyingly to be configured. The network capabilities need to be configured. And if you push this in a serverless model, there isn't any VM on demand. The VMs are on demand. So there is no network capabilities that's static. You could, however, build it in. How that will work, a VM gets provisioned and it networks and configured, and I think it's too much effort, or it just adds to the starting time. So I think that's one of the pain points. They haven't implemented that yet. So we are good to go still. So I'm just going to continue quickly. Benjamin, you must just tell me if I'm going too fast, too slow, or too boring, or too up or too down. I'm just going my way. This train is going straight. All right, so this is the picture how it will look like. Very simple. So you have a web app on Azure side, and you have your on-premise on the right-hand side, for instance, and you have something called a hybrid connection manager that will run either on the SQL box itself in this scenario, or ideally it needs to run on a separate box because you want to scale those things, and it requires a outbound connection to the Azure Relay, and the same the web app has an outbound connection to the Azure Relay, so it goes like this, and they all kind of meet in the middle, and it kind of gets executed back home on your local network to the database. And that's kind of how it works. This is a different setup, how it kind of can work in scaling. So you have app service, Azure Relay, same thing. We have your hybrid connection manager. In this case, it's kind of replicated on 3 machines. So if one dies, there's still that probability of the other 2 picking up the load and still connecting. Because I mean, if you have just one and it breaks, it's that chain gone. You don't have the connectivity again. So that's kind of where that cookie crumbles. So this is kind of a de facto standard if it comes to hybrid connections to set up. But I'm going to demo this now quickly, but I'm not going to do like a kind of more than one hybrid connection manager thing because I only got one laptop. But you understand the whole concept, so just bear with me. Right. So I think not stop share, but I want to actually end the show. Great. While we're here, is there any questions so far? No one? Just raise your hand if there are any questions. So just see how it goes. Okay, so I'm going to do everything from scratch, just to kind of also go slowly, how everything will be set up. So what we'll do is, I think we can start here first. So let's say we have this this one. Actually, I want to actually open a new window. Visual Studio, and let's say, for instance, actually, I want the excuse to actually use my terminal. But by the way, this is the new Windows terminal, which is quite cool. Oh, okay, I need to check the chat for questions. So where do I do that though? There's no. Okay, can I ask Benjamin? Can you just stop me if there's any chats or stuff, because I don't know where to check for the chats now. So let's go sandbox, and we want to do a. This feels awesome to type, yeah, I must say. Let's say Canary Wharf Net user group, and then we say Canary Wharf user group. We're gonna cd into that file. Now let's use .NET and say this is .NET Core 3.1. So we say we want a new web API. So I'm just now building a on-premise service that will give us some data, right? So if I run this now, eventually, .NET run, this should now give us. So it's a basic template. So it's part of the web API template, I believe. This goes enter, and these things happen normally to me. So you guys need to kind of get used to the fact that either my demos never work or it's kind of shitty overall. But I'm actually going to quickly stop this quickly because I want to change the code a bit to make sure that I log everything accordingly. So like I said, this is a typical MVC application, or web API application. It has this weather forecast functionality built in a controller, and it will just give you back kind of a random forecast. But what I want to do is I actually want to make use of the logger to log. Oh, this won't work. Logger dots. Oh, that one. Log information. Now this thing decides to kind of restore Docker. I don't know why it does this in these awkward times, but fine. So log information. I don't know where my intelligence is, but that's fine. Let's just learn to live with it. This is not a .NET demo. So we can say weather endpoint hit, for instance. Great. Save that. Going back to our little portal. Hopefully this will, now it asks me to kind of restore the C# stuff, but fine. .NET run. So all that I did now was to add like a logging. So every time I, let's just put that there, and maybe let's just open up a new file. Oh, not there. Let's just say, yeah, here, let's say tests.htp. Oh, by the way, for the folks that is using Postman, no offense, Postman is awesome. I just like this plugin. It's called REST Client for VS Code. Install that. That's awesome. You can get them here at I think it's REST Client. It's not that. There, it's REST Client. Go install this. This is absolutely amazing. It allows you to kind of do in code what I'm going about to show you now. So given that our application is running here on the right hand side, if I go, for instance, HTTP, and I think it's starting at it's localhost 5000 or 5001. It's HTTPS, right? And it's weather service or something. Oh, that's not it. It's something else. What was it? Weather forecast or something. Yeah, weather forecast. LOL. And this is now, but let's just do this on the bottom maybe. Can we do this here? There we go. You get my drift, right? So, yeah, this is quite irritating now. Weather, what's it again? I forgot. It was called weather forecast. So weather forecast, right? So pay attention. If I now hit this endpoint many times, you get your payload here, right? So this is what we want. But also, I've just added kind of a logging to kind of log that we're actually getting hit by this server. So this is going to be gold going forward. I'm just going to make a small change to our code because one caveat that you have to remember is if you're using the hybrid connection to connect to HTTPS, it won't work for some reason. I'm not an expert. I don't know why it doesn't work, probably with certificates and stuff. And also if you're connecting to a machine that has local hosts, won't work because then it will try to connect to itself, which is not the case. But normally you have something called 127. Or 192.168, blah, blah, blah. That won't also work because you can't work with IP addresses. You can only work with host names. So that's another caveat you have to remember. So working with DNSs, which means if you use HTTPS, it gets interesting. So it can only work with HTTP. And because .NET Core, our dear friends in Redmond decided it's a good idea to put it in the template, and it's probably a better practice to do it that way. If I have localhost, like that, for instance, and if I pop this in a browser, this is what happens. It will actually redirect to HTTPS. This will break our demo because it will redirect, but it will fail on HTTPS. So I think doesn't really want to know how that works. So just a caveat there as well. So that's what I want to do now. Before we continue, before I actually forget, I'm going to turn off the HTTPS redirection. Because remember, this is supposed to be on-premise service only. So you don't really need HTTPS on-premise, in my opinion. Because if your network is secure, we can talk endless about these kind of things, but in any case. All right, so yet again, I'm not a security expert, so don't take my word for any of these kind of things. I'm just showing you cool experiments, right? So cool. All right, so we have our little service running. And also to make things interesting now, that's another caveat that I was talking about, is the DNS kind of thing. I don't have a DNS server yet, so my hack around it is Notepad. You right click on Notepad, you go run as administrator, and you say okay, and then you want to open the host file. So it's under system32 drivers etc hosts. So what I've done is I've mapped my local host 127.0.0.1 to Fanie.local. So that means I can do things like Fanie.local. So I can do that. So if I send a request, you see it's still going through, right? So that still works. So now this is something we can work with. It's HTTP and it has a DNS to work with. So this is all on-prem. So I can actually disconnect the internet now, but then I would lose you guys. But if I disconnect the internet, this thing will still work. There's no smoke and mirrors. And by the way, this is nothing new. This is like stock standard stuff. So close this. All right. So what we'll do is we'll just keep that open, or how would we actually? Not that. Let's keep that open for now. Great. So next we will go to the cloud. So now let's say we have an app service in the cloud somewhere that we want to use, which we don't have yet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make use of an Azure function to connect, well, to give us an endpoint in Azure. And when we hit that endpoint, I wanted to kind of route on-prem to my API on-premise and get the data from there and give it via this Azure service to the public internet. So I'm actually exposing this service to the public internet using a proxy or something, but it's still an app service. So you can still do anything you need to do with this kind of thing. I'm just going to use an Azure function for this because it's the easiest. Function app. All right, so it's in this, let's just call this the Canary Wharf Net user group demo. And I don't know why this is not like defaulting on my current region, but in any case. Hosting, yet again, very important. Okay, there's a storage account. It needs to be Windows, and it needs to be a app service plan. You cannot just party on a consumption plan, just to remember. So if you want to be running on a hybrid connection, you need to have an app service plan. I'm just saying it again. Your plan name, so let's just say Canary Wharf Net user group plan, and we'll change that to basic. I think basics is the one that you can have that has the least. It's cheapest, but it has capabilities of running hybrid connections. Monitoring, I'm just going to turn that off for now, and that's it. So basically, that is it, and that should be kind of quick to create. And the reason why I did that, doing this from scratch, is because one, we've got time, and also just to show you guys it's how easy it is to do these kind of things. So like I said, from scratch, the demo most probably won't work, but hey, I'm just a guy that does these kind of things. But it's interesting to kind of see how these things work and fail, because sometimes when you have the same problem, all these demos at Build or at all these conferences, they just work from the get-go. I believe is if your demos fail, you're actually part of the problem. You sit together, you figure things out. That's more like realistic, right? So that's how people kind of are real problem solvers. So that's kind of cool. All right, so that's fine. That's cool. So let's head on to our resource. So in this Azure function, there's nothing in there. There are no functions, no nothing. What we could have done, we could have also used HTTP client from our Azure function. So for now, before we continue, we first need to create a hybrid connection on this app service plan for our Azure function to utilize. All right. So the first thing that we want to do, we want to go to platform features, and then we want to go to networking. So here you would actually, if you want to link this to a VNet, this is where you want to do this. So if you have an app service plan, you would see a hybrid connection section. So you just say configure, and it will pop up a list of connections that you can use for your plan. So in this case, for a basic plan, we are allowed to use 5 connections. So 5 hybrid connections we can have in this plan. So group your app services wisely, per plan. So you can obviously scale up to standard. That gives you 20, I believe, 20 connections, and a connection is to any host. So a host with an IP, a host with a port, that's a connection. That counts as a connection. So imagine if you have a on-premise connection for dev, test, acceptance, and production. That's already 4 connections that you make in Azure. So I don't have anything, so I just go add hybrid connection, and then I say, okay, create a new one because I don't have one. I'm just gonna, hey, Amat, I'm just gonna admit him, and then let's call this Canary Wharf Net user group, and that's a hybrid connection. The host, and this is where it becomes interesting. This is the host name. That's the host name of the on-premise connection I want to go to, not necessarily my hybrid connection manager. That can be anything, but the target machine I want to connect to. In this case, it's Fanie.local. Without a hybrid connection, if I connect with HTTP client or wherever to Fanie.local, obviously in Azure, it won't resolve because that's not a public DNS, right? It will kind of break. So for now, I put this in as Fanie.local. The port, I put in the HTTP port, which is 5000, my local ASP.NET Core thing. I don't have a service bus namespace, so in this case, I want to be creating the namespace. Canary Wharf net user group namespace. Just using these kind of naming convention for now, just to ease it up a bit, the things. Okay, so while that's creating and doing its dance, in a second you will see things getting interesting. Just gonna kill that one there. And it's running. It's kind of hard to kind of talk about random things when these things are spinning up, especially when you do like live coding. It's kind of ad hoc. You have to think about jokes or some time fillers to kind of fill in these kind of things, especially in live streams. When you have a live audience, that's different because you can kind of assess. Yeah, but now I just see the names of the people. I don't know how they look like or if are they laughing at me or not. Probably are, but in any case. So we're just now waiting for the hybrid connection to start off. If you just joined us, welcome. We are building a hybrid connection to connect our Azure on-premise to the local network. So we're just waiting for Azure to kind of do its thing. And hey, it's done. So now we have this hybrid connection set up, and the status is not connected. Whoop-de-doo. And this endpoint is Fanie.local 5000, and that's it. So what we want to do is we want to select this, and these are the details. So this is the, I'll get to this in a sec. So what we want now is we want to have this connection manager. So when you click that, it will just download this hybrid connection manager. I've done that already. And that will give us the hybrid connection manager UI. So there are two parts here. There's the UI and there's the background service. So this is the UI. So the UI doesn't have to be open all the time because it runs on the Windows service on the background. So the Windows service is the actual agent that runs, and it goes out polling to the actual service bus. Is there something for me to process? And as soon as it gets a request, it brings it on premise. It executes it locally in a local network from the agent. And as long as the agent has access to that resource on a different machine, the thing will work and the response goes the same way. So now what we do, there are two ways of adding the hybrid connection. We can either click on this button and log in, but that's a bit of a slow way of doing things, and especially if you want to automate these things. What you want to do is you want to get this gateway connection string. So if you click on the hybrid connection, this gateway connection string, I'm just going to copy this from now. And then on this manager, you want to enter manually, you just want to stick that in there and click add. And that will in a second kind of register itself with Azure. So it says now it's not connected. It's a bit of a, if you kind of refresh, it will be not connected still. I found out there's a kind of a silly bug. If I stop the service in your Azure, in your Windows services, and you start again, and you refresh, then it's connected. So that's kind of also maybe call it a caveat, I don't know, but just one of the things you have to remember. So now if you refresh, you are actually connected on-premise to Fanie local 5000. That's cool. So great. So now I'm going to actually go out of here. So these are my hybrid connections that I've set up on this app service plan. So that means any other app service that is hosted on this app service plan now has access to all these hybrid connections. So if you have a different app service now, you can just click hybrid connections configure and choose from the existing one for your application, or create a new one like I just did there. But the main idea is it's already configured. You're just choosing which ones you want to use for which app. And that's cool. So for consumption-based things, everything could be consumption except for this kind of cloud gateway app service. That's the kind of a connection point to your on-premise network. So you can have that app service plan only responsible for relaying some of the connections to your on-premise. But depending on how you want to set it up. That's what I say. So we have this set up. We have got no Azure functions yet again. We could, if we wanted to create an Azure function, we could create one and then in the code use HTTP client to connect to Fanie.local, and it will absolutely work. But I'm going to use something called proxies, and that's kind of a better way of doing it. Because that's actually what we want to do is a proxy. We don't want to build a new system. We just want a proxy, in this case, connection to our on-premise API. But you could have done, if you have an application that's running on Azure, you could just, if you want to have access to like a SQL database, you could just use the SQL database connection string as is, as if it was in the cloud. Because the Hybrid Connection Manager is set up and it's connected, it will find itself and it will kind of connect to the relay to your database on premise as if it was in the cloud. And that's like powerful. Okay, so what we'll do is we will create a weather proxy. Let's just call this weather proxy, and then the root template, let's call this weather for now. We'll allow all endpoints out, but what we'll do, not this one, got so many windows opened. So I want to actually relay. I want to relay /weather to this backend URL. Okay, so this is interesting. You can do like request overrides, add authentication and stuff like that. What you also could do is if you have variable machine names, you could say, /server /weather and then pass this as a variable name, so you can say server there, and that will kind of, in your route, you can define your server, and then you can just work with that, which is also kind of cool to work with. In any case, let's just keep it simple, /weather, and I'm just going to create this for now. Great, so there's my weather API. You guys can try this out now. Let's just first see if this works on my machine. So now I'm going to actually not use that one. I'm going to use this one. So the Canary Wharf demo, Azure Websites, weather, and I'm going to send this request, and hopefully I'll get something back. Yeah, there we go. There's my weather. You guys can also test it on your side. I can actually throw this in the chat. This should actually also work. How do I do this actually, by the way? Yeah, Benjamin, you have a question. Oh, and how unmute? Do I unmute you? Cannot unmute you.
There we go. Hello.
There,
yeah,
okay.
I've just hang on one second. Let me just sort my audio out. Make sure there's no feedback. There we go. That's a bit better. Sorry about that. Yeah, I've just tried that, and it redirects to Fanie.local /5001. Interestingly. Oh,
it redirects there.
It's redirecting. Yeah.
Wow. Maybe don't try in your browser.
Okay.
Because yeah, it's funny because I think the browser doesn't. Let's just see what happens here.
Yeah.
Yeah. See this redirects here.
Redirect, yeah.
Yeah. So maybe try on Postman.
I will do that. 1 second. Let's pull up Postman. Let's see if this works. All right. I must say, I can certainly think of a couple of projects where this would have really come in handy for hosting. There was a project I worked on for a major orchestra a couple of years ago, and they had a sort of internal booking system, which was a nightmare to access because you had to be able to debug the site locally because it depended on the booking system. We needed to have a constant VPN connection, which was over to their servers in the United States, and obviously from the UK, that was less than ideal for development purposes. So yeah, so this sort of hybrid thing would be fantastic for that sort of. If
it works, the proper way.
If it works, let's see if I can create a new request. Okay, all right. So just a GET request, which is to CWNUG demo CWNUG demo.azurewebsites.net/weather. Sending request. Could not get any response.
That's interesting. I wonder why it didn't work on my machine, because this definitely goes out there, but because then this obviously then redirects it. It might be in the .NET Core thing, 3.0 thing, because this was working earlier. Like I said, my demos
maybe,
never failed.
I was going to say, you clearly didn't sacrifice to the demo gods.
Maybe there's some things they've added to this
use endpoints. Yeah, I mean that all seems that.
Well, this is your on. It won't be here. It will actually be on your Azure function. That's the thing. I wonder if we should say. I actually have. Maybe let's try something else. I've got this other one.
I was going to say I'll try it with I got a better idea. I'll try it with Fiddler, because instead of Postman, Fiddler lets you see the response body as well.
I think it's a 301 or something response.
Yeah, it looks like it,
because it's not supposed to do that though.
Yeah,
and that is to do with the fact that you're going from HTTP to HTTPS or something.
I'm looking at HTTPS. Here we go. Right.
Yes, the Azure function is HTTPS.
Yep, and I'm getting a 502 on that. Interesting.
That's interesting.
The connection failed to negotiate HTTPS.
Yeah, I see it. It tries to upgrade it to HTTPS, and that way it gets buggy.
I see. Oh, it's because the redirect is trying to redirect to your local, and it's trying to upgrade. I see. Right. So if I try and just do HTTP, let's try that.
So let's just see.
Now I get a 307. Here we go.
Okay, that also, what does that mean?
Temporary redirect.
Yeah, it should not redirect. That's the thing.
It's a 300. Weirdly, yeah, but I was going to say it's redirecting to Fanie.local. That's odd.
It should not redirect.
That's very odd.
So maybe what we can do is let's just go back there.
Let's look at the proxy settings. Yeah.
Maybe the proxy works differently or something. I don't know.
With the proxy.
Let's just say what's they're doing here. I don't know what that is. That goes there, and that was exactly the way I've done it previously.
Yeah, very strange.
Maybe I should actually say get. I don't know if that will be.
Yeah, possibly. Let me rerun that. Composer, execute. Nope, still getting a redirect.
Oh shoot! Now it's actually also redirecting. Previously, it was not redirecting. I can actually
to 5001. That's odd.
We'll figure this out. I can. Not sure how I would do this. This obviously something. One local 5000. And does this?
Are you sure you don't have two agents running? Because if you check your terminal, you've got two hosting environments spinning up for some reason. Scroll all the way up. It span up two hosting instances. Take a look.
Yes, but it's not. It's listening on both, but it's not redirecting the one. So if I go to this one.
Yeah.
Oh, darn. If I go, where's the other thing? If we go to, this is the secure one.
Yeah. Oh, I see. One's HTTPS and one's HTTP. Right.
Yeah. So if we go there.
Oh, I see. Right. Of course, different port numbers for different. I see.
Weather forecast.
Yeah.
Okay, I think I stopped it now.
Yeah.
Let's just see. Yeah, this must work. We've got enough time, right? We can.
Yeah.
We can figure this out. It is recompile the app. Okay, that's also an idea.
Okay.
Yeah, true. I have not recompiled the app.
That's a good shout. Okay, so that's running, right?
Okay, so yeah, I've made a change, but I have not recompiled it. Maybe let's just see if that works now. So go to your.
I was going to say maybe.
Wharf. What's that link again? Darn. Let me just see.
CWNUG demo.
I'm gonna copy. There we go.
Yeah.
Bob is your uncle.
Oh, let's have a look. And testing, and bingo. Yes, I can see it as well. Fantastic. Good job.
So
there it is.
Who was that gentleman that gave us that tip? It was Dale. Who was it? Sorry. Just raise your hand again. I forgot your name now.
It's all right.
Can you see the chat?
I can't.
Oh, there we go.
You're the host. You're the only one that can see chat.
Can you see? Yeah, it's Dale. Yeah, it was. Hi, Dale Palmer. Thank you so much for giving that awesome tip. So,
excellent,
folks. If you make code changes, do not forget to recompile. I can actually give you a tip now. So, what you could do if you're like me forgetting things, you could make use of .NET Watch, and you can say .NET Watch run, right? So now,
and every time it changes, it recompiles.
Exactly. So
there
now.
You go.
it will watch your files, and every time there's a change, it will do the whole compile. It's so blazingly fast, you don't even know. Right?
The only problem is what happens if you miss a semicolon, it won't compile.
True, but then the thing won't run, right?
That's
because
true.
I said .NET Watch run. So let's try that.
That's a good
Will
shout.
it? I miss a semicolon, for instance. I just want to.
Yeah, let's get rid of something somewhere.
Let's break something.
Yeah, there you go.
Break.
Save. File change started.
Boom.
Boom. Okay.
Okay, so we'll just now
build
still.
failed.
Let's see. Refresh. It will break.
Yeah, I think that's dead.
See?
Yeah.
Nice. And to actually prove a point, I'm going to put this on the screen. Okay, let me just actually fix my bug first.
Yeah.
Save.
Yeah.
It will start now again.
And recompile. There we go.
Okay, so how about you hit that endpoint a couple of times, hit refresh. I'm just going to have to put my hands here.
1, 2.
There we go. See how 3. The requests coming in.
Yeah, this is me.
So there's no smoke and mirrors, and this is how it is. What was it, like a half an hour or something?
Brilliant. That's fantastic.
That's how you set up your hybrid connections, and it's kind of safe. Well, it's HTTPS. Well, it's 443. I'm not a security expert. It's safe. It's secure.
You can add. I was going to say you can add with what I noticed as well in the proxy. You can also add things like authentication as well, and of course with standard web API, you could also use things like identity server or JWT tokens to secure whatever you've got on-prem.
Yes.
With any existing identity solution.
Exactly. So the thing to note is this is the proxy scenario, but what you can also do is remember this is an app service. You can do anything you want in app service based. So if you, for instance, make a new say in portal app service, let's say for instance there's a I don't know, let's go for a timer trigger. Let's do a timer trigger, for instance. I don't know, let's just do that.
So now you've got a cloud-based cron job, basically.
Yes, a timer trigger, or it can be anything. It can be your MVC application that you publish online. The fact is that you have I'm just going to be a naughty boy and just do new up a HTTP client. Don't do this. Client, but you get my point. Client.
Yeah. Also, don't do it in a browser with no IntelliSense.
Yeah. Then what you want to do is you're going to go var response
equals client.download download string async.
Well, is it get async something like that? And I just want to say result. Don't do that. Don't do that as well. So just bear with me. What I want to do is I want to go to Fanie.local. Right. So is it Fanie.local, this one, but not the 5001, but a 5000.
Yeah.
Not that one, because that's HTTPS.
Yeah, there you go.
That one.
Perfect.
So you could do this now, right? So I can go do that. That's response. And I can say our content is the response dot content dot read as string async. Oh my god. Dot results. Also don't do that, but in any case, then you want to say oh, this is a timer trigger, so let's just say log dot is it log information or something? What was it?
I think it's information. Yeah,
information. We say content. This is like me completely coding in the dark. See, what we want is every
and then
logger does not contain information. It's log information. Was probably
there we go.
Log information.
Save.
There we go. Hey, hi. That was not too bad. So what we do is we could say this runs every. And how does this work?
That's every 5 minutes.
How can I do like every
minute?
So every 10 seconds or something.
Every 10 seconds. Okay. So what you do is */10.
Cron job.
No, I'll type it for you. It's fine.
There we go.
Just a minute. Hold on. *10 *2 3 4 5 6. There you go. Check the video chat.
All right, so I can copy it. This is 10 seconds, right?
Yep. That's every second divisible by 10, basically.
Okay, so I think hopefully my app service will support this.
Yep. Here we go.
So let's see if this runs every 10 seconds.
Should do. I'm watching my watch with interest to see if I got this one right.
10 seconds is gone.
Yeah, I think it has.
5 minutes.
Yeah, use crontab.guru. Although interestingly, for some reason, Azure Cron uses 6 digits rather than standard Unix, which uses 5.
Okay,
so
then,
you've sort of got to be a bit. Yeah, Azure Cron syntax is a bit different.
let's go to this cookies. Okay, so every minute.
Yeah,
that's also fine, I think.
Yeah. See, every second. So */1. So */10.
But I think this is a limitation on my. This is a limitation on Azure App Service.
Try hit reconnect on it.
Oh, there we go.
Trace.
There we go.
There you go.
So now, my friends.
Perfect. Nice. Excellent. And that's still hitting.
That's still hitting my endpoint.
Brilliant. There you go.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then you have a full-fledged cloud application running by itself, and it's connecting on-prem now. Look what happens if I just exit my application.
And it should just error out.
It should error out, so it will break, right? You don't want that, right?
No.
What you do want is you want eventing to work. So this is a cool thing. You can use Event Grid for this, right? So I'm just gonna maybe do a switch this off for now. So let's say we have a scenario where we fire off an event, and one of the subscribers is a on-premise service that's a webhook, right? That you want to post information to. Is there time quickly to show this?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, go ahead. We've, as I say, normally we last anywhere between 60 and 100, 1 hour and 2 hours. So you are absolutely fine for time.
Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to see if there's a. So there's this is controller. So let's just go to I just want to close this gun. Let's make a post just to kind of HTTP. I'll just go for the HTTP post, and we'll say I'll just copy these things because I typing in front of people. And we'll say, for instance, that's just a HTTP response message, or what is it? You guys need to help me. Or say void. I don't know what it is. Task. Let's just say task. And then we say post, for instance, and we say what we want in this post is a object. Will this work? Stuff. This should work, right? So, and also, by the way, from I think ASP.NET Core 2.2 and upwards, you don't have to specify from body. It infers it if it's a post. It will infer it from there, which is quite cool. So what we want to do is we want to say logger. Well, not to be awkward. Let's say is the serializer. How do you do serializer again? JSON stuff is stuff.
JSON convert.dserial. Actually, hang on. If you're
that's
using
JSON
object,
convert.
Yeah, you need to install Newtonsoft.
I don't want to.
Actually, well, is it already installed? Is the next question.
So system.text.
Yeah, system.text.json.
JSON dot.
There you go. JSON
I'm just
serializer.
totally doing this out of my head. See, coding is not hard.
There you go. And serialize.
The deserialize? No, that's
no, we want serialize. That gives you the string. Yeah, there you go.
And what we want is a
stuff.
Yes, and then we want also.
You need a type, don't you?
Okay, type of. I don't know why.
Type of stuff.
Type of object. What would it be? Okay, it's options. We'd have to specify.
Yeah, that shouldn't be. I was going to say you shouldn't need that.
Okay, so that should be.
Let's do it.
This is my JSON, right? So this works. So now I'm going to say.
Then you can log that.
Logger.log information. JSON.
There you go.
And what else? And I just say that's about it. So return task dot completed. Okay.
There you go.
Well, actually, we should actually be a good boy and just say action result.
Yeah.
Maybe make this. Doesn't really matter.
And then you can do task.from result or task.from result. Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
There you go.
Because I think that's.
Yes.
What did I miss? Yeah.
You want task.from result. Public
Wait, I think
That's it.
that should kind of, yeah, that should work.
There you
Right.
go.
Good. Now, my friends. Oh, my thing is not working again. Let's just maybe open this terminal here. .NET run. Okay. Now if I go here and I hit, for instance, oh no.
I was going to say you need to add a body to this.
Let's add it here and say, what was it? That was very forecast, right? So I'm just going to post to this. So post. And let's say, for instance, my content type is application JSON. And my stuff that I want to post is, for instance, foo, I don't know, bar.
The classic.
Yeah, that's how I roll. Great. So that's that. And hopefully this will work. Boom, totally fine. And then if we look at foobar was locked here, right? So that's quite cool.
There you go.
So what we want to do is we want to be able to have our event grid hit this endpoint for subscribing for events, right? So we would build something similar. Now, if I'm not mistaken, what we could do is we can go and create a new event grid topic. Call this Canary Wharf Net UG topic, and that is deployed in West, not there, West Europe, really. There we go. Schema, event grid schema tags, all that kind of things works nicely. And that should be fine. Great. Done. So while that's doing its thing, it's deploying. Maybe it's a time for it's cool. Deployment succeeded. Nice. Deployment no marketplace. It's funny. No. Okay, so this is my my topic now. So everything that connects to this topic. Now, let's say this is a subscription. So let's call it on-prem sub. It's a event grid subscription. And now let's say, for instance, every time there is a maybe we say resource type. I actually want to not do this here. Let's say, for instance, let's say every time I want a blob created, I want my my what do you call it? My local on-prem to light up with an event, not a post, but I want the event grid to kind of offload that command. This is totally unplanned, so I'm just gonna do it. So the storage account has this events thing happening here that doesn't hit. No. What? No, I'm a bit lost. Let me see. Event subscription. Wait, why can't I change this now? I want my topic type to be different. What's happening? Why is my... Oh, this is not right. I'm looking for the wrong things in the wrong order, I think, yeah. But surely there is a event in the storage account. Where's my events here? It's not here. It's weird. Maybe on resource group level. Let's just go resource group level. So if I create a new resource group, for instance, in Azure, let's just do that. I want a new event subscription. So this is tied by resource group, which is kind of funny. Yeah, do I want to do this though? I want to be able to. No, this is not really what I want to do. Benjamin, help me think about ways to kind of do this properly. Because this topic, I could say event subscription. Then I could say, for instance, I don't want to implement this whole thing now. this whole topic thingy. What has event grid access to? So let's say event grid. It has, no, is it Netherlands? Actually, I don't want one out. We have, yeah. Oh, I see. I need to actually go to that container. Silly me. Yes. So let's create a container called files, whatever. More stuff. Much better. And we create it, right? And in here, how the hell does this work? Blob opslag. So event grids, blob created. Just want to see how this works. Why is my thing in Dutch? Really? Just English this. Azure Blob Storage as event grid source. This is what I want. Where do I do this? Okay, you can only do it there. So that means that we need to create a new storage account because it's general purpose. Storage account. We did, and we say storage account name is Fanie storage. Well, let's call this Canary Wharf net. You agree storage. Hopefully that's not taking it. Storage for Fanie. That's not really. Oh, you can't have dashes. All these things, you have to kind of West Europe should be there. We want general purpose and what kind of fancy things. Networking, everything is fine. Yeah, whatever, just create it. Now we can party because I was trying to use the built-in one and that did not have that capabilities that I wanted to have, the general purpose B2 one. So I was still doing okay there in the audience. You guys, this is still entertaining to watch my boring self. The light here has been on. They have still been the same for the past 2 hours. Okay, so this is what I want to see now. Container. Let's call this stuff. Okay, so now we want these events. So every time there's a file being created on a container, I want my local on-premise service to kind of hit up that thing. So we want to say add subscription. Call this stuff sub. Storage account. When a blob is created or blob deleted, let's just keep blob created, for instance. My endpoint type, hey, look at that. That's webhook. Select an endpoint. Now, I wonder what we can put in here. Could we put in that? Oh, that won't work. Will this work? That's the other thing now. I don't think that will work though. We can try that because I haven't really tested it yet. So let's see if we add a new hybrid connection to your plan, and this demo will totally fail, blow up my face, and it will explode. But it will be fun. Platform features. I just want to add the another one there. Configure. I want to add the 5001 as well, just kind of to be sure that we hit that endpoint. So we create a new one. We say Fanie safe. This was Fanie.local. I think this is 5001, right? We'll just use the existing namespace. Done. That shouldn't take too long, right? And it should almost light up in a second or 3. So that's interesting thing. So to create a subscriber endpoint, it needs to be HTTPS. So you should be able to do this also with hybrid connections. Okay, that's been created. So I click Fanie safe, waited for that thing to populate, copy, go to my Hybrid Connection Manager, enter manually, add it in there. In a second, it will kind of handshake and connect. Not connected, fine. Let's maybe refresh a few times. And that doesn't work. Give it a kick. And it should kind of light up, I think. There we go. It should light up, and that's the way you do it. Okay, so now that should work, right? So if I hit, first of all, I need to also, that's the explicit endpoint. Confirm selection. So now what will happen if I click create here? My subscription is proceeding. It will probably try to validate that I own that endpoint first. And okay, so it failed to connect to that endpoint there for some reason. Oh, this thing is not running. It is. It is running. Yeah. Hey, wait a minute. Oh, you know what? You know what? It was, okay. It was trying to, okay, that's the thing. We need to kind of implement kind of logic to, let's quickly say, webhook, Azure function, no, Azure event grid. Let's just go to English and then blah, blah, blah. We want a, because what happens, I'm going to put a breakpoint here, but this will prove the point that it actually works, right? So I'm going to put a breakpoint here, and will this work if I just run it like this? Okay. So now, technically, if I just, in Azure, try to save this again, yeah, Azure will go and try to validate that endpoint. It will post something to that endpoint, and it expect that endpoint to return a token back. So it will echo it, it will send a token to it, and if it gets that same token back, it can connect the webhook. That means I own that endpoint. I did not hit this endpoint though, which is interesting. This works. Interesting. So for some reason this doesn't work. I'm going to actually stop it there because I'm getting too old this show. But there is a way of you can do this because Event Grid has support for Hybrid Connect. No, I'm muted. Okay, great. Why is everything now in Dutch? I have no idea. Let's see what happens. Come now, go away. Okay. English, blah, 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 custom topic. I have no idea. Oh, wait. Loads, Hybrid Connection consumer project. Endpoint is what I want. Interesting. Well, there's a sample. We can actually just look at the sample, right? So consumer, do some bit of copy and pasting here. Yeah, this is not interesting. Okay, I see. This is using the Hybrid Connection Manager inside of an application running, so you don't have to use the which is also cool. This is using kind of the listener inside of your code. instead of using the Hybrid Connection Manager. You can use code as well because it's just the relay, right? But what you want to do is you want to get, I think this one here is, in any case, I think we should just stop it there because I don't think there's any necessary need for me to kind of go through these things. I just want to go one last try, and then you can kick me off.
How are we doing?
We're doing okay. I just want to see where I'm going miss.
By the way, you should check in your Google results, by the way, while you're seeing everything in Dutch, on the right, there's an option that says change to English.
Oh, yeah.
Might help.
It might help. So I've not done this before, this hybrid connection thing, but it's definitely possible to kind of route hybrid connections. Oh, you know what I've done wrong? Change. Look, hybrid connections.
There you go.
That's what I want.
Excellent.
That is what I want, because you don't go to a web endpoint, you're going to hybrid connection.
Yes.
Now, let's go. Select endpoint.
Oh, because then the hybrid connection sends it to the endpoint.
Exactly. Okay. There we go.
Perfect.
Okay. Right. So this is how you do it. So
it's always one of those moments, isn't it?
Exactly. Namespace. Which one connection? We just go for the unsafe one because that's how we roll.
Yep.
Always be safe, guys. But this is how we roll today. Now.
Yeah. Don't try this at home, kids.
Okay. That's the previous error. Great. And now, see, hybrid connection will do the whole dance for you now for the subscription, right? So are you ready for awesome stuff?
Go for it.
My friend. If this will work. So there's stuff, right? I'm going to actually pop up. Let's actually kill this. Oh, stop. Or how do I, this is stopped, right? Is it stopped?
Look. Yeah, it looks like it.
No, it's not stopped.
No. Yeah, Visual Studio is a bit weird at doing this. Try Shift F5 as a keyboard shortcut.
So what I'll do is I'll just open up this again. Go to Sandbox.
VS Code isn't exactly the greatest for this.
Okay, so .NET Run. Still getting used to things, eh? Okay, so .NET Run. So we should expect to see things happening now. So I am not a magician or anything, right? So if I upload app settings, upload, and nothing happened. Okay, so nothing happened. Why? It was supposed to. It was supposed to post to that endpoint, but what though? Wait, maybe I'm jumping the gun. Let's go back. What do we have here? Events. We've got stuff, subscriptions.
Yep.
Okay, so whenever that happens there, there's endpoint here.
Should get fired. So that should be when you drop a file into blob storage, it should get sent over to the hybrid connection, right?
Yes, but something is happening here, but it's definitely. What is the thing here? Okay, blah blah blah. Okay, so there's a way of doing this now. So listen.
It's all right. Do you know what? Might I suggest, actually, given the time, my suggestion would be, I understand, I appreciate it's getting late over there for you. So how about we can follow up on this on a Twitch stream a little later on in the week? How does that sound?
Yeah, that's cool. We can do that if there's time.
Yeah. In between all our other commitments. Cool. All righty. Well, thank you so much. That's been really, really, really insightful for me, and I hope for everybody else as well. And if you want, I shall quickly there we go, reclaim host. Lovely. And I shall reshare my screen, which is that. Lovely. And share. Yeah. There we go. And then we quickly do not allow people to annotate. There we go. Lovely. I mentioned free stuff. Of course, we have our usual JetBrains prizes to give away. We have got a JetBrains All Products Pack voucher, so you can get Rider, ReSharper, anything you like from the All Products Pack. And, oh, 1 second. I believe someone is trying to mention something in chat. 1 sec, sorry. Somebody sent me something in chat and I'm just trying to find it. Hamad, yes, of course, we will be uploading the video to our YouTube channel a bit later in the week. That will absolutely be fine, so that you can rewatch it at your leisure. Excellent. Let's have a quick look. All right, so I mentioned free stuff. I have already drawn the first part of the raffle, and the first part of the raffle, the winner is Asila. Asila, raise your hand. Now, Asila, would you like either the JetBrains prize or the Redgate SQL Prompt prize? We have 2 available. Well, 1 of each, sorry. So if you could let me know which one you prefer before I draw the next person for the raffle, that would be good. If you type in the chat area, then let me know which one you prefer, and I'll make sure that gets sent out to you. If you could also let me know your email address as well. Can you, Asila, can you see my chat message? Ah, perfect, JetBrains, excellent. Wonderful, if you could let me know your email address, that would be great. Wonderful, and we shall draw another winner for the Redgate prize. Let's see, Priscilla, no, not in the meeting. Okay, next. Shivam Kapoor, do we have a Shivam Kapoor? No, we do not. Mark Goss, yes, we do. Mark, congratulations, you have won the Redgate prize. I will message you in just a second. If you could let me know your email address, please, that would be fantastic. Lovely. Excellent. And if I quickly send this to you, Asila, as well. If you can email our email address, which is canarywharfnet@outlook.com, and we'll make sure that your licenses get out to you later this evening. And other than that, we'll discuss our next meetup. Obviously, due to COVID-19, we're going to be remaining online for the foreseeable future. Latest developments, frankly, I am ignoring the government's advice to potentially return to work until I deem it safe for either Red Cloud to host or for any other venue to host. And I don't see that happening anytime before the summer, to be quite honest. So we do not have anything planned for our next meetup. But it will be on the 9th of June 2020. As and when we confirm a speaker, we'll obviously announce it on the meetup group and on Twitter. If you would like to speak at one of our events, even if it's only a 20-minute talk, a lightning talk, something you're passionate about, something you want to share with the meetup and with your fellow industry peers, by all means go to papercall.io/CanaryWharfNet and we'll review your submissions accordingly. All it leaves me to do is to thank everybody for coming and for watching. We'll make sure the video is on YouTube. Thank you, Fanie, for all of your insights and demonstration this evening. That's been really insightful. And to everyone, thank you for watching, and we hope to see you again next month.
Bye-bye.
Let me have a look. Excellent. Now, how do I try to find how I, there we go.